Naruto is Buddha and Madara is the anti-Buddha, whose name is Mara. Seriously, literally the entire plot of Naruto is the journey to Buddhism, a person reaching enlightenment by making peace with its inner monster and accepting that life is suffering and overcoming it. That would be Buddha and Naruto, while Madara represents the anti-Buddha Mara, whose whole thing is that he cannot accept that life is suffering and wants to make life an eternal party by creating his idea of utopia. Literally the plot of Naruto. Also, almost all of the names in Naruto have hidden meaning. Like, take Rock Lee, for example. He has his name because in Japanese, Bruce Lee is written like Blues Lee, the music. And rock is born out of blues, just like Rock Lee was inspired by Bruce Lee, and because metal was later born out of rock, Rock Lee's son is named Metal Lee. And hey, I always strive to give you all the answers right away, but for one answer I need to take a little more time. The Akatsuki and how they are all based on real life reasons for war, which you might remember that Pain briefly mentions this in Naruto. But he doesn't go deep enough, and you know me, I always go deep.
Brother,
Deidara, according to Pain, goes to war on a whim, but it's more than that. Deidara represents terrorism. Not hard to see, I mean, bro literally drops bombs from a white bird, so yeah. To him, art is destruction, and destruction is art because it tears down hierarchies and levels everything. Like, it levels the ground and levels the playing field on a set. Philosophically, it brings fairness. You get me, double entendre, you get it. Opposite to that is his partner, Sasori, who represents hierarchy, monolithic organizations to be exact, which only serve one purpose.
I'm so fucking important.
Satori represents the tyrannical leader who controls everybody else like puppets. Next, we have Hidan and Kakuzo. Kakuzo represents resources, money and human resources to be exact. The guy is all about the money, but he doesn't want to make the world change. He just goes after every target if the price is right. And when he kills the target, he takes their heart, which is another resource, because he can put that in his own body to prolong his own life. So money and resources as old a reason for war as war itself. But maybe Kakuzo wouldn't have had to go to war for money if he hadn't spent all his cash on those overly expensive earbuds with fruity logos and had instead bought the Raycon earbuds, which are more affordable and better quality anyway.
Yeah, you didn't see that transition coming, did you? In fact, I'm not even sitting. I'm doing push-ups. And the Raycons do not move. And now, side plank e no movimento.
Seriously, these earbuds are they're amazing. Genuinely do not hurt my ears. Feel smooth, and I'm actually glad Raycon is sponsoring this video and sent me these because I was thinking about buying them anyway. I'm not even kidding.
Winning.
Also, these bad boys, man, they have active noise cancelling, which I'm pretty sure is unheard of at that price point. And then there's my favorite part, 32-hour battery life. I mean, come on, that's like 80 episodes of Naruto without charging, or like 3 sessions on your favorite adult website. And to charge them, all you do is this. You put them in this box, and in 10 minutes, you're gonna get 90 minutes of charge.
Oh my God! Wow!
And if you want this goodness in your life, go to buyraycon.com/briefed to get up to 20% off site Why? Yeah, that's 20% off of all headphones, earbuds, everything you can find on buyraycon.com/briefed. Now, Raycon is so sure you're gonna love their product that you get a 30-day happiness money back guarantee, and whatever you order, you also support the channel. So, arigato gozaimasu in advance, because thanks to your Raycon order, I can keep making videos like this one about Hidan and the reason for warfare he represents: religion.
Obvio.
Hidan is all about his religion, Yashinism. It's his entire power. His god, Yashin, is all he draws from, and that's his whole character, so no need to explain further. And I mean, religion as a reason for war.
Obvio. Obvio.
Then there are Itachi and Kisame. Itachi represents patriotism. He does everything for his country, for Konoha. And patriotism is obviously one of the most common reasons people go to war, or are sadly often manipulated into thinking it's what they're going to war for. So check that for Itachi. And Kisame sadly represents that manipulated patriotism aspect from a foot soldier's POV. Kisame, in the end, he fights wars to fight inequality and find a cause worth dying for, because in the past, he was manipulated to fight for a false ideology fabricated by leaders who used them for their selfish purposes as nothing but cannon fodder. Should sound pretty familiar when looking at the modern world.
I take the fact that he develops weapons of mass destruction very seriously.
Kisame was one of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist and believed in their ideals, would have given everything for these ideals, similar to Itachi's devotion to Konoha. But then Kisame found out that the people he followed were lying, and these ideals were only something they put forward to manipulate others for their selfish purposes and power gain. Now Kisame is going to war to fight the system, looking for a leader that is worth fighting for, which he thinks he found in Madara and Obito and the utopian world they promised to create. Zetsu and his whole nature-bound appearance represents going to war for land, for territory, but that's actually just what he wants everybody to believe. His true ideology is not that, it's revealed later. All along, he was just preparing the world for its rightful ruler, for a godlike figure, a Führer that he believes the world belongs to. Zetsu represents fascism, mixed with some extra fanatic seasoning, believing that a king or queen, a chosen one by God or God itself, that the rightful one will take over what is his. That's his thing, and Zetsu paves the way as fanatic number one. And we saw this in real life, obviously. In the Second World War in Germany, we saw this all throughout history, really, with kings and emperors claiming to have been chosen by God and claiming that to rule is their birthright. Just like Zetsu believes it is Kaguya's birthright to rule the world. So that's that. Next up, Conan and Pain. Conan does it for love. She loves Yaiko so much that she would do anything for him, and the idea of wars being fought for love is, I mean, it's real, it's just a bit romanticized. Like the Trojan War, for example, but I guess there are many soldiers who ultimately go to war for love, for their loved ones, and usually, though, they are also motivated by another reason that supports that love, where that love can thrive. And Conan also shares that other reason. She shares it with Pain, and that reason is peace. They go to war for peace, to create a world where love can bloom. They fight a war to end all wars. Madara and Obito, they want to create a perfect eternal world, a utopia, a world where everybody lives under the illusion of peace, because that is the only way peace can really be achieved. But that is so much deeper than just a simple reason for war. It's actually intertwined deeply with Buddhism. So I'll have to save that for later when we go into detail on the Buddhist themes in Naruto. This utopian illusion, perfect world will be very important. But beyond the Buddhist aspects though, Madara and Obito also represent imperialism. Simply put, they believe that their way of viewing the world is right and everybody else is wrong. And imperialism, I mean, probably the number one reason for war in the world. The world's greatest empires were built on imperialism. Rome's leaders literally were called imperators. So yeah, that's that. And again, more on the Buddhist aspects later, but for now, I want to talk about
It's all about sex, baby.
Specifically, the fact that Rock Lee put his rock hard Lee into somebody and gave birth to Metal Lee. I already explained it a little bit in the intro, but the Japanese katakana for Bruce is this. And the Japanese katakana for blues, the music, is this. Rock was born out of blues, metal was born out of rock, so we end up with Rock Lee inspired by Bruce Lee and Metal Lee born out of Rock Lee. But there's more, there's always more. Naruto's very own name is also the name of a city in southern Japan, and the city, Naruto, is known for its whirlpools. And to double down on that, Uzumaki literally means whirl, whirlpool, or spiral, so hence a symbol for Uzumaki being a whirl or a spiral. But then we can even add Naruto's dad, Minato Namikaze, into that equation, because Namikaze means wind and wave. And when you combine wind, waves with whirls and spirals, you basically get what? Exactly. So the technique Rasengan literally represents Naruto and his dad. That's pretty cool to me. Next up, Akimichi Choji. Akimichi is just the name of a Japanese autumn food market for the autumn harvest, hence the food association with the big boys Akimichi clan. But there's more interesting meaning hidden in the name Choji, because Ji, it just means second son, which is why in almost every anime you have someone with a G at the end of their name, like Aokiji, for example. And the Cho means butterfly, hence why Choji transforms into a butterfly, which means that for anyone speaking Japanese, that transformation was foreshadowed all along.
Obvio.
But there's more. Choji's Little Devil's threesome gang, consisting of him, Inu, and Shikamaru, also has meaning hidden within. Inu Shika Cho translates to boar, deer, butterfly, and in the Japanese card game Hanafuda, Inu Shika Cho is also the winning hand. And if the Hanafuda cards look familiar, yes, in Demon Slayer, Tanjiro is wearing Hanafuda earrings, but that's another video, maybe if people want that, let me know in the comments. For now, let's stay on Shikamaru. Shika means deer, we already established that, and the suffix maru is something that is added to the end of names to make them male. So Shikamaru is the deer boy, or Orochimaru would be snake boy, or Konohamaru is boy from Konoha. Any name that ends in maru follows that logic. And to stay on Shikamaru more, you remember when Asuma died? You remember what Asuma told Shikamaru about Shikamaru being the knight, and then he asks him about the king in that scene?
Naru, 玉は誰だかわかるか?
ほかげだろ?
俺もこの間までそう思ってた。
Them always playing Shogi is reflected in their fight against Hidan and Kakuzo. Get this, the first kanji in the names Hidan and Kakuzo are two Shogi pieces. Hi is the rook and Kaku is the bishop. But it gets deeper. Get this again. The immortality of Hidan and the powering up of Kakuzo is in that, because in Shogi, pieces can return from death and they can get stronger. And while we're on the Akatsuki, again, there's more, always. Kisame literally translates to demon shark, and the sword Samehada means shark skin. And why Kisame got the badass name, his partner Itachi's name just translates to weasel. Hey, but at least in Japanese mythology and folklore, the weasel is a badass. It represents a bad omen and is associated with death and evil and devious behavior, which are all attributes that were first associated with Itachi. Also, if you really want to blow your load, I hope you have some Kleenex ready for this one. Get this. In the Japanese folklore, the weasel is believed to be able to hypnotize people. It was all in there, all along, and as for Itachi's last name, Uchiha, Uchiha is a slight change on the word Uchiwa with a W, and that means fan, specifically a fan used to fan fire, hence the fan symbol and the Uchiha clan being all about the fire. And Itachi's brother, Sasuke, his name is actually a super generic shinobi name. In Japanese folklore, a lot of shinobis are called Sasuke, so much so that the name Sasuke is synonymous with just a shinobi. And if you didn't watch my last Naruto video, first of all, shame on you, but shinobi is just what a ninja was originally called, but then calling them ninja became more mainstream and shinobi kind of fell out of fashion. Specifically, the name Sasuke originates from the tales of the legendary Sarutobi Sasuke, who first appeared in the 17th century, and he's a mythical shinobi who's possibly a mixture of a lot of historical figures whose legends were mythified and became this one legend known as Sarutobi Sasuke. And sharp ears might have heard Sarutobi and be like, huh, yeah, it's the name of the third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, and well, that's where that comes from. And to be honest, all animes, most of them, have these meanings in their names. Japanese names in general have a lot of meaning hidden within, and Jujutsu Kaisen goes hard with this. That one has meaning upon meaning upon meaning in every single name and every single thing. The mythology behind Jujutsu Kaisen is actually probably another video that I'll do one day. So comment if you want that. Actually, comment. Give me a comment. Now, moving on. I know I started off saying that Naruto represents Buddha, and he does, chill, we'll get to him. But before Naruto could run and scream, Hashirama had to walk, so Hashirama and Madara are the original pairing of Buddha and Mara. Now, you might be asking, Mara?
What the hell is even that?
Well, if Buddhism had a devil, it would be Mara. He is the anti-Buddha, connected to Buddha by being his exact opposite, just like Hashirama and Madara. But while Mara is the supposed evil within Buddhism, he's actually not that evil. And you watching this, you're probably a follower of Mara and you don't even know it. Let me put it this way. Do you like living? Do you care about health, wealth, accomplishments? Do you have attachments? Do you strive for fulfillment and gain and keeping your family happy and safe by any means? Probably yes to all of those things, and congratulations, you roll with Mara. Yeah, surprise, you are actually opposing Buddha's ideals. Not that Buddha would care, because not caring about anything is like his whole thing. It's probably super annoying and being in a relationship with him. Not that he would have a relationship, because being unattached is his whole thing. Man, he sounds tedious.
I don't care.
Mara is not really evil. He's most of us, which, if I look at humanity later, I don't know if that's a compliment. Maybe he is evil, because we are kind of. But Mara really believes in a life of pleasure, desire, flirting with temptation, all of that. Whereas Buddha is strictly opposed to all of it and says that life is suffering and desire, joy, temptation. It's all an illusion, and we should literally strive for emptiness and nothingness. Who sounds more fun than a party?
Don't care, still don't care.
I'm willing to bet most watching this give into some temptation on the regular. That's why we have no Nut November. We're tempted, always. Let's be honest here. Does Madara's infinite Tsukuyomi in Naruto, a world of eternal bliss, does that really sound all that bad? Forget the means he uses to get there for a second. The end goal, it would have everybody living happily for all eternity, just within an illusion, but you wouldn't know. And the thing is that illusion really is the key word here, because that in itself proves Madara technically agrees with Buddha's core teaching that life is suffering. He knows it's true, and that an illusion is the only way that it is needed to overcome that reality. So, that's kind of deep. I gotta lie, that's kind of deep, bro. You with me?
Don't care.
Back to Mara, a world filled with desire, joy, temptation, attachment, free of suffering. Not gonna lie, I like my attachments. I hate injustice, I hate suffering, I avoid it at all costs. If I could, I would get rid of it for everybody. Nobody should have to suffer through anything to come out stronger. Nah, I hate that idea. So that's how I feel about it. So I roll with Mara, but that is very anti-Buddha of me, and why I could always resonate with Mara's core idea. And honestly, don't we all? Social media, likes, views, chasing subscribes, and people ringing the bell and turning on notifications. We live that life, and even beyond this life, most of us would love to ascend to paradise to keep that perfect party going. So give Madara's methods a little major twist in Naruto, and suddenly his goal of happiness within an illusion you're not aware of, a paradise on earth, give it a twist and Madara could make for a great protagonist, or at least a radical protagonist that many agree with. Suffering in the world of Naruto is real with a capital real, and Madara's way would get rid of it once and for all. Naruto's way, it just puts it on hold before the cycle inevitably continues and people have to find a way to overcome their suffering and find their own way. Kishimoto just goes over the top with Madara's evil methods in order to paint a villain and make sure you don't side with him. And if you're trying to sell people on Buddhism, you gotta make the other guy look bad. So Madara and all his temptations, they're depicted as evil, usually taking on demonic phallic forms, while the entirely detached Buddha was depicted as this meditating beacon of light. But if we're being honest and really talking appearances, vanity is not something that Buddha aligns with. Man, dude will probably look raggedy as hell, while Madara and his disciples would be walking around like... By the way, this is why many depictions of the devil or gangsters and mafia movies or bad guys in general are often portrayed to be so attractive, just to tempt you.
I'll be damned.
And temptation, man, fighting temptation is as difficult as chasing it is dangerous, and Naruto proves that by beautifully showing that every bad guy in Naruto could have easily turned out to be good, and all the good guys, they could have been evil. Hashirama could have turned into Madara, Kakashi could have easily turned into Obito, and well, Obito could have actually been Naruto. All of Naruto's good heroes are just a misguided temptation away from becoming villains, which is why the teachings of Buddha teach us to avoid these temptations. And Naruto's antagonists are proof of the temptation's dangers. Obito gave into the temptation to save Rin, and he strayed from his path. And again, he could have been exactly like Naruto. Then there is Nagato, who literally echoes Buddha's core concept that life is suffering. Nagato couldn't accept that reality, and he gave into the temptation to acquire the power to get rid of all suffering, and then he himself became the pain of this world. And then there's Madara, and by extension also Obito. Madara, as I said before, also acknowledged that life is suffering, but rather than accepting it, chose to try to create the ultimate illusion for all. And then the good guys, meanwhile, they all managed to avoid these exact temptations and accepted their suffering, like Naruto with his childhood. He had every reason to give in to hatred, but he didn't. Hashirama could have been Madara if he had decided that he was tired of letting people repeatedly screw up, and Hashirama could have forced peace on all of us by using his powers. But he didn't. Kakashi could have been the one who refuses to accept Rin's death and tried to manipulate the world in order to bring her back. He didn't. And then there's Sasuke. My man went deep down the temptation path for a long time and refused to accept the reality of suffering in his life, instead seeking vengeance. But eventually he did accept his reality, and with that, Sasuke found a way out of his darkness. All the good guys in Naruto confirm Buddha's teaching that these temptations are an illusion that leads you away from enlightenment, leads you away from accepting the reality of your suffering, and leads you onto a fool's errand of trying to fulfill that which is not real. In the world of Naruto, that futile attempt is what leads great shinobi down dark roads. So with all of this, I think you see the parallels between the character Naruto and Buddha all by yourself now without me elaborating, but I said I would, so I'll do it by summing everything up. Naruto is Buddha. He finds enlightenment in a world of suffering, accepts that the cycle of the will of fire and the curse of hatred can never be broken, and knows that good needs to come out of overcoming that suffering, which by extension that means that good needs evil, and that Buddha's teachings are true. Life is suffering, and life will always be suffering, but you have to overcome it to find enlightenment. Naruto allows life to take its course, and he just nudges it into the right direction, one Rasengan at a time, but he gives people the opportunity to find their own way, while Madara's eternal illusion would just be everybody blindly using training wheels, but never really learning to face the dangers of actually riding a bike on two wheels.
Does that, when you hear yourself say that, does that sound like it makes sense?
Does it sound like he makes
I feel like I just started this metaphor halfway through, and yet at the same time, I feel like that half-assed metaphor made it easier to understand. I hope you get me, bruv. The point is that the reality of freedom of choice is suffering. Naruto can accept that, and Madara cannot. And that's why Naruto is Buddha and Madara is Mara. Namaste, my friends. See you in the next one.